Hello and welcome to another Modern Commerce Talks from Avensia. I'm your host, Jack Stratton from Insider Trends, and delighted to be joined again by Heather Miller, Senior Strategy Consultant at Optimizely. Hello again, Heather.
Hi, nice to be back.
Yeah, lovely to see you again. And we had a super interesting chat last time, and I learned a lot, certainly, about why experimentation is so important. We started to deal with some of those elements, I think, for, decision makers and people who are trying to influence other colleagues and people they work with about the value and the importance of experimenting, which was great. But for this, I think the natural kind of progression from that one, I thought it'd be really nice to chat about what it actually takes to build a successful program of experimentation from a tactical side. So I think we'll launch this one with that question. What does it take, Heather, to build a program of experimentation?
Yeah, no, so that is a great question. So I guess on a high level, what you need is time, people. We kind of, I guess we think about them as pillars and foundations. So when I work with customers and different organizations and business and kind of guide them through this process of where to start and where you'd like to be, the key kind of pillars to think about are time, people, skill set, technology, process, and your business strategy, but also your culture. These are all the kind of really important things at a really, I guess, high level, what you need to think about. To kind of break into those a little deeper, you need, for example, if we think about people, you need to be able to get the right people in the role who are hungry for experimentation, who really are open to a test and learn mindset. It can be really easy to be stuck in your ways, and that can also be a blocker if you're not willing to change the culture. When it comes to time, I think it's the business accepting that an experimentation program isn't something which is going to happen overnight. It takes sometimes months or even years to be able to build up to a point where you're actually working in a fluid manner. You're able to capture insights and able to run at a steady pace and have your technology fully integrated. It all takes a lot of time. And so it's really thinking about, am I prepared to dedicate a couple of months or a couple of years to getting it right? Technology as well, you need the right technology in place, and then processes, also really important. You have ways of working today that is very likely going to have to change to improve and incorporate experimentation practices. So I think initially, before kind of diving into some of those at a high level, these are the kind of things you have to, on the outset, think about and be prepared to be flexible on, and think about, how do I tackle these? How do I manage expectations across the board? And what do I need to start with, basically?
And what, I guess along those lines, what are the kind of most common pitfalls that you see when people start building these programs?
Yeah, so some of the main pitfalls is when you don't think about these things, or everyone's really rearing up to go and I want to just launch a test and get started. I would say the kind of disconnect from a leadership level to the kind of the doers, the people who are actually running the experiments and building them. There has to be matched expectations about what are we actually delivering, what is a realistic velocity target, for example, in the time frame that you have. So if you think about, you're starting out, you're very unlikely going to be able to run 100 tests a month. But often you see that at a leadership level, they're so keen to get that ROI that there is that unrealistic expectation set on the team to run loads of tests. This is an immediate potential for fail and a pitfall, because it's just not realistic. You have to be able to set realistic velocity targets to be able to scale over time. So starting small, thinking about what you'd like to get to. I think I talked a little bit about pressure to deliver ROI quickly, which is a very common one. I think that can be achieved, but again, in a very controlled and concise manner where the tests and experiments you are coming up with will aim to deliver value. I've seen businesses meet their ROI targets by running one experiment. You know, they have paid for Optimizely or whichever tool twice over by running one experiment. So if you take the time to do it right, it can be done. Another one is failed tests are demonized, which is very common. Failure, no one likes failure. Failure is a dirty word, and I think in our industry we really need to move away from that. We need to accept failure and embrace it as a learning. If you don't fail, you're not going to improve. And there are many leaders out there in the tech space who are so successful because they fail fast and they learn from their failures. It is an insight, and that's really what you're after.
And quick on that, I find that so interesting. There's probably more, like, you probably see more failures than successes, right? Because that's kind of part of that's the point.
Yeah. I think a couple of years ago we did a sort of benchmark for Optimizely, at least, where we could kind of see what percentage of experiments from customers do fail. It is, I think it was maybe 80%, as high as 80% at one point. And that isn't a bad thing. That just means that you're learning, you're not going to repeat that same mistake again, what your customers don't like, what doesn't work. You know, that kind of feeds into your program overall and how you think about, okay, well, we need to, how do we capture these insights and feed that into future experiences?
Yeah, it's so interesting that, and yeah, and also I suppose off the back of some of these, I'm sure there's tons of pitfalls actually, but off the back of some of these, you know, what are some of the things that it takes? You know, what are the kind of the elements of experimentation that are absolutely fundamental that again probably lead to pitfalls when they're not realized?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I would say from the outset, we usually encourage businesses to think about what is achievable today. We talked a little bit about velocity and win rate, learning rate, you know, wins and losses. Think about, a realistic velocity target based on your maturity. So you can over time build on that. Look at your processes today and almost do a bit of an audit to say, how quickly can we really move with testing? Testing takes time. You need to build experiments. You need to design them. You need to analyze them. What does your release cycle look like, for example, today? Are you able to release things quickly? Are you able, you know, is that going to take some time? So again, think about all of your workflows across all of your teams. What is realistic in terms of how quickly you can move and the time that those teams can spend on testing if you don't have dedicated resource yet. Think about what you're hoping to achieve. Potentially even assign a designated program manager, which is a really big one. A lot of businesses are actually starting to do this. I've seen it in the job markets, which is really great. It's so crucial. It's not necessarily someone who's doing the building and the analyzing, but someone who can almost lead and build and manage that program. So having a person responsible for that will help grow and manage that whole thing as well from the outset, which is crucial. And then I think having clear expectations on, you know, what you're measuring. How do you measure success? How do you measure for success for your business in terms of your business goals? How does experimentation feed into that? How do you define program value? So how are you improving and scaling over time? So I think with those sort of core aspects, you're going to be in a good place to not only manage expectations, but also look at what needs to be done to change the way we're working today to be able to do more and more and more as we grow.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Heather. And I guess, do you know what, I'm going to force you. I often do this, and it's an annoying thing, really. But if someone watching this, you know, we were to give them one thing, so you know they're right at the beginning of kind of thinking about an experimentation program. They're right at the beginning, and they want to go and share one thing that they must do in their program. What would it be?
Tricky tricky one.
One pitfall to avoid, or one thing they must do, or just something you think that is just like the first thing that always comes to your head that people get wrong, or that the successful businesses get right.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I would say that I think having the top down, bottom up understanding of what it takes to be successful is a really important one. It is, you know, everyone from, oh no, not everyone, but I think having some key stakeholders on the leadership side of things who are, you know, they hold the purse strings. They are the ones, you know, signing the checks and making the investments, down to potentially someone even at the kind of doer level. Having at least one or two people in the leadership who are in your corner from day one, I think will be key and will make things so much easier. I've seen many companies who have struggled with some of the other things I've touched on, but having that clear support and having that kind of almost flexibility of, well, you know, budget's not going to be a problem. They're going to help me fight those battles when it comes to the politicking. That's you know, that's priceless in a way, because that's just really what often blocks a lot of the other things. Really, you can only do so much. So I would say that having someone on a leadership side is probably my biggest recommendation.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting. It almost makes me think like people watching this thinking, yeah, you know, who have already bought into the idea of doing all of this. They need to just go and find that leader that maybe they already have a relationship with, and, you know,
Yeah,
get it going with them before they maybe pitch the big idea to the whole C-level. They can just maybe just start with that person and get them
exactly.
on board,
Yeah,
and they can help to sell it
yeah,
to everyone else. Yeah.
yeah, because it is you've just bought something that's really expensive. They've been part of that. You'd want them to understand the process and, yeah, have that understanding to help you. And I think that's definitely the number one thing I've seen, which can be a big blocker further down.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Heather, again, it's so interesting chatting to you. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we'll do some more soon. And
Yeah.
thanks to everyone for tuning in. And if you haven't seen the first one of these we did with Heather, do check that one out, which goes into the why experimentation is worth investing in. That's all we've got time for now. So thanks very much, and bye, Heather.
Great. Thank you. Bye.